Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My brother, how are you?
Good, good. Alhamdulillah.
All right. Good to be with you once again.
Yes. Are there going to be others who's going to be joining?
No, but with
Just
your
us.
permission, this will be posted on YouTube with your permission.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where they'll get there.
Well, my name is Mahir L, and I live in Dallas, Texas, originally from New York. And I graduated high school, regular high school, because the University of Islam was at that point no more, so to speak. And so then we were then called Bilalian Muslims. And so I continued to read the newspapers and the things that was being published at that time. Mm-hmm. So in Germany, myself and some other brothers, this is when I was an enlisted man, back in 1979, we were ordering our newspapers. And we were having Juma and as such. And then I left Germany. I spent 3 years there. So transferred from Germany, came back stateside, got out when my first part of my active duty contract was completed, and then joined the New York Army National Guard. Okay, now let's really fast forward. While in college, I went ahead because the college offered it, was modern classical Arabic. That's how it was listed. And the professor who taught it, Sister Anawan Zawawi, I believe that's her name. My memory serves me correct. It's been a minute. She also taught Swahili, and she was from Tanzania. So I took a year of intermediate Arabic as well as advanced Arabic the following year. While taking Arabiya is when my eyes began to open and appreciate the science of the language. It wasn't the science in the form of numetics, but nonetheless, it broadened my scope of understanding. And in case you don't know this, we in English, we say German, but in the actual language, they don't call themselves German. Mm-hmm. They say Deutsch.
Yes.
And in Holland, which is a cousin to Deutsch, is Duitse. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just want to make sure the listening audience understands that part. Okay. Yes. And Arabiya, they're not called any of those names. Almania. So, and Almania is not a new made-up name. So, and so in Old Hebrew is Almon. So that is another way of how they refer to, but Arabic and Hebrews, they're related to each other.
Sisters, sure.
Okay. So when I say Almania, then you can almost picture in your mind what we're really talking about here. My studies with the help of the Arabiya language was
your picture froze. Your picture froze. Repeat what you just said because you froze.
Okay. I was saying as a result of studying Arabiya, mm-hmm. having it in college, my studies of the Quran and everything began to accelerate.
Yeah.
Okay. I still hadn't gotten involved in Hebrew yet, but that was up and coming. So speaking with a brother who was a member of the Ethiopian Commandment Keeper Synagogue, he is from Ethiopia, Falasha, living in New York. The brother says to me, he's saying whenever I would talk to him about something from Quran, he was able to understand what I was saying. He just never personally had a Quran of his own. So I got him one. So I got him a Quran. And then he offered to me, once he saw that there was a lot of written about Pharaoh, Moses, children of Israel, that caught his attention immediately. and the respect for the law, Torah. So in Arabic, al-Torah,
Yes.
instructions.
Yes.
That's really what the word means, instruction, the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me, why guess about the Old Testament? Because we were having conversations about it, and I had never touched it, picked up one, never. He said, why don't you start off right? We'll teach you the original language that it was written in, and you can go from there. Great. So every Wednesday night after work, I'm over at the synagogue. And then that's when my eyes opened. And again, I was really amazed and shocked, because then it hit me. Wait a minute. You guys are speaking a different dialect. It's a different language. And he corrected me. No, we're not speaking a different language. He said, it's just a dialect. It's a different dialect. I mean, in terms of some pronunciations, the character set's different, but the verbs and everything else means the same definitions.
That's right.
So that was an eye opener for me. So I do have David Briggs' complete Hebrew lexicon of the Old Testament. So when you're looking up a Hebrew word, it gives you the Arabic word, the Assyric word, the Ethiopian word, and any other words that has the same roots. And they show you, they write it in the character set that it's written in the tongues that are spoken. And they show you the definitions are the same, and it shows you exactly where in the Old Testament these terms are being used, including the term Muslim. So Muslim is used as well. Instead of pronounced Sajda, S-A-J-D-A, it is S-A-G.
That's right.
So in Hebrew, the J and the G is one of the same.
Yes.
Right. Now I do have a caveat for something we were speaking about last night, because you become acquainted with names, you begin to leave alone the English names. Something you pointed out, and I believe I left you a brief voice message on it, and we can talk about this briefly. We're talking about the calendar. I'm not discussing the calendar per se.
Right.
But we started out talking about Iblis. So why is there a book that Moses is giving additional instructions and talking to, quote unquote, the children of Israel and the people of Yashurun? Okay. Why is that book labeled Jubilees? Drop the J. You now have Ublis, which, because of the pronunciation of that letter, instead of I, it's an U.
That's right.
Which is passive.
Yes.
Tense. Both languages, Hebrew and Arabic, do the same thing. So now it is passive as opposed to intensive form of the word. So now, and it's plural. So now it is pointing out and highlighting in passive form. It gives you the truth, and it tells you what the snares and pitfalls and traps are, the falsehoods, the fakeries.
Yes.
That would befall. And it's not only the calendar, there's several chapters in the book of Jubilees. And it deals with a multitude of topics. But last night, for last night's purpose, we were focusing on the calendar. Now, keeping it in line with what I was just mentioning, the current names of the Arabic months, if you look, okay, this is not a book that is written by non-Muslims. This book is not written by, can you see it?
No, it's a little bit faded. Yeah, there you go, right there. The Concise Encyclopedia of Islam.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is put together. It's a small version of the larger form. There's two things when you're looking up in this book. The Arabic months. They tell you in the encyclopedia that the naming conventions of the names of the months all came from solar
Yes, yes, yes.
conventions.
Thank you. Repeat that.
So there's an
please.
Arabic name that means first spring.
That's right.
Spring equinox.
Yes.
And then there's another name for a month that indicates the second spring.
Yes.
Fall equinox.
Fall equinox. That's right.
And then other months. So I began, and I had to ask this question.
Yeah. And each one of those names is in recognition of the seasonal conditions.
Yes.
During that part of the year. Correct.
Right. So the names of the months, they're not the issue. By what authority?
Right.
And who authorized
this is the part I love.
the removal off of the original construct of counting time. That's one thing right there. Also, in this same encyclopedia handbook, I was looking up the definition of sunnah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine, no problem. If you're in the index of a Quran that has been translated, why aren't there any references in the index back there in the back if you just want to look up sunnah? But go to the encyclopedia, and while looking at the definition of sunnah, it states this. They put Surah 24, one of the ayats up there. I think it's 24 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's speaking about salah. So the ayat in Arabic, as well as they translated it well in English, the three notable times of observance, it says Salatul Fajr, Salatul Zuhr, and Salatul Isha. Now, so when they refer to it, I grabbed the Quran and I went to that surah and that ayat and I said, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. They're talking about it the way they need to talk about it, but here's what it says. Although the Quran sets the number of prayers, they use the word prayers, to 3. Sunnah sets it to 5. And they also say in the same encyclopedia, in the matter in which Quran and Sunnah are in conflict. Listen carefully how they word this. Sunnah is made to prevail over Quran. That is in an Islamic encyclopedia.
Man, oh man.
I got 2 more things for you to let you know, because all of this is part of my growth. Okay, so I saw that and I was thinking to myself, again, military style question. Who authorized this and by what authority?
Great questions.
And in the Islamic encyclopedia, they never mention in that paragraph, when you look in the definition of sunnah, they never refer to the prophet.
Mm-hmm.
They never said he said it. They're talking as jurists. So Quran is in contradiction with Sunnah. We're going to rule in favor of Sunnah. And Sunnah means it references a system.
Yes.
And in Quran, Allah mentions at least 3 times Sunnah Ta'ala.
That's right.
No prophet has a Sunnah,
no.
But a prophet has a millat.
That's right.
Which is a creed and a practice. So what is it said? Practice what Ibrahim alayhi salam practiced. It says millat Ibrahim. Now, here's the trick they did. I saw this in a hadith. This is trying to keep in how they play with us language. In a hadith, I was given a khutbah one day. And I noticed the English said the conversation about how the ummah would be divided into 73 sects. So I'm reading this in English. And one of the companions is allegedly to ask, "Oh, Prophet, if there's going to be 73, 72 is going to the hellfire. Which one is not? So in the English, they say the ones who keep and practice his sunnah. That's what they said in English.
Mm-hmm.
But even that hadith writing, which has the Arabiya right there,
yes,
the word sunnah is never used.
Yes.
So it's like Thalatha Saba'in,
mm-hmm.
73
Mm-hmm.
Milatan.
That's right.
And of the 73, its name, Wasaba'in, is going to the bad place. All except the one who practices his milata.
There you go.
That's the way it's written in Arabic, and that's even hadith.
Yes.
But
and
in the English, that is not what's printed.
Oh, you got them. You pin them down, man.
So the problem, and I started to observe this with the problem, the laziness and the callousness that has developed as a result of the people who already claim that they speak the language.
Yes.
So they are subject to say anything to you on face value, and because they're speaking the language, without thinking twice, you will innocently get taken in by everything that they're saying.
That's right.
Okay. So they say kinds of wahi. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they go into the different, and then they go into how revelation was sent to the prophet. And it tells you which, this is what we're familiar with: direct dialogue between Allah and his Rasul, through dreams, through Jibril. And then it goes on, then it talks about times of revelation, the stages the Quran passed through in its descent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a tiny book.
Yeah.
Quran, right? It's very small. And then they say the first stage, the Quran descended from and they tell you, Mahfu.
Yeah.
The imperishable tablet. Watch, the preserved tablet.
Yes.
It says came into being, and they say in the seventh heaven, and how when only Allah knows, the Quran descended in full and not as isolated surahs and ayats. Picture for a moment. When I was reading this and studying this and other sources, okay, you sign up for Introduction to Calculus. You're told to go buy the textbook. You don't have the syllabus yet. The professor will take care of that. And through guided measure, when that professor is through, that textbook that you just spent that money for to learn Calculus 1 is what he's going to step through. And you should be able, when he's done, to do all the homework assignments, passed all the midterms, the pop quizzes, and everything else.
Got it.
You understand, right?
Absolutely.
So here it is. Why wouldn't Jibril be the teacher? Why wouldn't he be? And then it says the second stage, the Quran descended. Look at this, the Baitul Izzah, which is Baitul. Remember what we said, house, or the house of power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it talks about where it's located. And then the third stage, the Quran was revealed to Rasulullah through the medium of Jibril. So now I need to get to the other part, because it talks about the physical states, talked about what he went through. So I didn't find any issues with this. Okay. When you're receiving it, how you can sometimes go on, you're going to go into a trance. So that indicates you're being drawn close to, or Allah is drawing close to you.
Yes.
And incidentally, in Quran, Allah never gave up nor surrendered his ability to talk to any of us in dreams.
Absolutely.
That's an ayat in the Quran that tells you he still does this. Not he can do it. No, he still does this. And then he tie a rope on and draw himself closer to you. So it was only those in the wilderness who told Moses, You talk to him. You talk to him. We don't want to hear the voice of him because it scares us and we think that we might die. In the Quran, it says, with the thundering and as such, and the vibration going forward.
Yeah, for fear of death.
This, and he said they thought as though the sky was going to fall down on them.
Yes.
Okay, so that's your shakers and your fakers.
Yeah.
Because they can't handle that. Not everyone was like that. Okay, so, and it gives you, listen, it gives you good names. And as such, and now here's a part I wanted to go to. The preservation of the Quran.
Yeah.
They gave us a name. Uthman. Okay. That may be an uncorroborated, non-existent person. And I'll tell you why.
Come on.
This is one of the books of Flavius Josephus. Let me see.
Got it. Familiar with it.
Okay. Uthman belonged to a clan called what? Umayyah. Do you know what the ethnicity of the Umayyads are? Because it's an Arabic word for another word of a group that pre-existed. What was Uthman known for in the quote-unquote Arabic narrative? I can't call it Islamic. He was wealthy. He was a trader. Commerce was his thing, right?
That's right.
So in other words, somebody important, someone notable. That name, Umayyah, is the Umanidius. They're Greeks. So someone, remember, after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, a group of them, before you had the real takeoff of the Umayyads and the Abbasids, they spent 200 years in the court of the Byzantine, transliterating everything from Greek, Latin, into the Arabic.
That's right.
And this is how and so they took names of people that was not Arabic names, and they made their names Arabic. Now, let me share a little secret about Greek in case you don't know it as a language. Alexander, the Greek, his character set, thanks in part to the Phoenicians, his character set was the same as the Aramaic Paleo character set, letter for letter. So when it says in the story about a prophecy about him being able to go into Jerusalem, and the Israelite priest opened up the book of Daniel and showed him a prophecy that related to him. Alexander the Greek didn't need a language interpreter because the languages were the same.
Yes.
So he read for his own self what was written in that book, especially the prophecy as related to him. And after him, his kingdom would be split up into 4, and what would become of those. So it's not a far stretch to go from then. What they speak today, as a young woman explained to me, her entire Bible is in what they call Greek. She says, Mahir, it's not really Greek. She said, it's called Kiani. And there are multiple dialects. I said, so it's not Macedonian? No. It's Kiani. And then a little bit further research led me to pay attention to the character sets closely, because the character sets they use today that they call the Greek alphabet is ancient Egyptian mathematical symbols called demotic.
Yes, I heard of that. Yeah.
Okay, so delta X over delta Y and all that. So anyone that's into any hard science, chemistry, mathematics major, engineering, and as such, you will be introduced when you're taking math, when you're taking algebra and trigonometry, pre-calculus, you're going to be introduced to the Greek alphabet, to what they call the Greek alphabet. Those are ancient Egyptian mathematical symbols used for mathematics. And now they took it Ptolemy took it, and now he uses it. He used it. Readers of the Quran among the companions. This is information, relevant information that people should be aware of.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm finished with the point about how they interjected Uthman, and they said Uthman is the one who's responsible for the collecting and gathering of the Quran. And yet in this intro up front, in this little Quran, they tell you that when the new compiled Quran was now ready, they went out to the 7 known locations of those who still had in their possession the original order of the Kitab. They made war against them. And I used to ask brothers in the football,
right,
under what conditions can the Quran be tossed in the flames and burned? And the brother sat there on the floor thinking about the question like, wow, damn, that's a good question. Because this is not discussed. But it happened.
That's right.
And I said, never. You never toss.
That's right.
Now, there is a ritual and rite to be formed when the book is so worn, and you just talk to whoever your imam may be, and he can tell you exactly what to do.
How to dispose.
And what words to say.
Yes.
Because the book is now unreadable. You've worn it out, which is a good thing. But they went and they tossed the books. They shut down schools of the people that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was alive, he mentioned by name those to go and learn Quran from. He had tested them himself. So they said, well, Uthman says that the dialects, they're not the same, and they needed to be unified into one, and then resend that one out.
Yes, replicate.
Hold on a minute.
That's right.
There were people who visit the Prophet ﷺ whose dialect of their Shemitic language, remember dialect, the language is not different. So if you were having a hard time trying to understand how someone pronounced the word because you didn't recognize how they said it, you used to say to them, write it down.
Yes.
And then when they wrote it down, your knowledge of the language, you're supposed to identify the roots of what they wrote down and say, oh, yeah, I know what he's saying. He just said it different than how I said it.
Right.
Okay. So I pronounce sa and he's saying so.
Right.
I need to see what he means. Oh, he still means sa, but he has a heavy vowel on it from where he came from.
That's right. From his
So
tongue.
the prophet, according to what is said, the recorders were not all of one dialect. And he had over 100, according to what's written here, who was, when he received, they were writing it down. I didn't realize there was that many people because they never talk about them.
Never.
Were they all of the same dialect? No, they were not. And you knew that from the interactions when you look at all the prophets' companions. That's a whole separate book.
Yes.
And you start reading that level of history, you start to discover like, oh my God, wait a minute, hold on. So this guy spoke a dialect. This guy was Syriac. Yeah, so it's still Shemitic. They have a slight way of how they vernaculate, how they may say that phrase, but it doesn't change. And that's the beauty of even Arabic. Look, I can say, I see you with my eyes. The verb is ra'a. Ra'a. I see you. And notice it says ra'a, right? Ra'a. That's the verb. He saw. Then I have possessive. Ot and otka. So if I say it, ra'a oti otka, that's the long drawn out form, and it still means I see you. Me see you. But I can shorten it. I can say ra'itika. So if you didn't quite understand ra'itika, I would say write it down. And you write it down and go, oh, he contracted it.
That's right.
And we have this phenomenon in Quran. You have it stated out long, and then it's like, wait a minute. Is this the, yeah, it is. But it's shortened. Oh, you caught that.
Yes.
Yeah. So Allah he kept us on our toes.
That's right.
He's like, yeah, watch this. Okay. You got jokes. I got jokes too. Watch. Now watch this. So they said their excuse was, and the way that they said it was, all variant dialects were to be done away with, and we were going to write it in the manner of the Qurayshi dialect.
Yes, yes.
Everyone pretty much knows that part in history. And I'm not going to go into the full backdrop of it, but the point is we need to understand that. And people whose Qur'ans was ripped away from them protested. I'm talking hands-on, rated E for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So they were fighting. Those people would declare apostates.
Yes, indeed.
And under that rule, which is not the prophet's rule,
right,
they were put to death.
Yes.
So these folks, on their return from the Byzantine court, the outrageous draconian law, you sneeze wrong, you might lose your nose, if not your life. They came back with extreme measures. And of course, it's noted for Emperor Draconius.
Yes.
So that's why they call it that. And when you look up that man's history in Greek history, he was terrified with what he did. Anybody was afraid to stand before this man. So now, here we go. In so-called Islamic history, we have names and they leak it out to you like this. Yes, and the prophet changed the name of a guy who was a Roman. He was no longer called this name. He's now called that name. Name of a young guy, he's such and such. His name is no longer that name. His name is this name. No, that's them doing that.
Yes.
They did that. They were doing that.
Teach, brother.
So now you have Uthman, who is an Umayyah, and you find out they're not Arabs. They're Greeks. Governor of Syria in the Greek days. And ran the commerce, and a governor is seen like a king. He's not quite an emperor, but he is someone important.
Yes.
So I just want to lay that on your mind, because when I saw that name and I said Umayyah, and wait a minute. Ummidius? And then I was reading what it was they were known for. The same phenomenon has happened in the New Testament. This is because you need to see how they did this. So they were talking to the same people, drinking the same wine. Okay? So you'll have Lysias in the New Testament, Nicanor, Timothy. There's a list of names, a lot of names in the New Testament. Those guys were scripted for it. That's the term I use. When you go back to the book they took out of the Bible, and you go to the book of Maccabees, and you see these same names, those are bad guys. So in the New Testament, Judas is a bad guy. In the Old Testament, he's the guy who stood up with the 400 to fight against the Greeks. And Timothy is Timotheus in the book of Maccabees. So now they're trying to play the English switch out and the trickery on you. And now comes the folks who say that they're Muslims, the new Islam. New Islam.
Come on.
They've already been in there eating large plates of cross-eyed lamb.
Aslam.
And drinking the unlabeled Kool-Aid.
I hear you.
They already did that in the Byzantine court. So now they march forward, and they were about war, which is why they did what they did. And now you know from snapshots of the brothers on the African continent, when they were being invaded by these folks who also claimed that they were Muslim, the one question that was asked, if I am a Muslim like you, why do you come to enslave me?
Yeah.
And the reply, this is well noted, the reply was, because you practice not Islam according to the way of the Arab.
Yes. Yeah.
So now these wars are starting to become crystal clear about the overthrow, no different than the Vatican going against our brothers and sisters in Abyssinia, the Ethiopians.
Yes.
No difference than that.
Same scheme.
So I did want to get to this piece right here because it's important. It says, well-known persons who memorized the revelation among them were Abu Bakr, we know that, Umar, Ali, Ibn Masud, and then they put here Abu Hurairah, Abdullah, but let's get to who the Prophet said go learn from. From among them, the Nabi himself recommended 4 persons, especially according to the narrations of Masruq. Here's our word again, right? And he says, Abdullah bin Amr mentioned Abdullah bin Masud and said, I shall forever love thee, that the man, okay, so I'm gonna skip all that. I just want to get to the 4. Yeah. Okay, so he says, take and learn the Quran from 4. Abdullah bin Masud, Salim, Mu'ad, Ubay bin Ka'ab. These are the 4. And then they cite where in Bukhari it is supposed to say that. So now you got the 4. These other cats show up later and all of that's out the window. Hey guys, we're doing a new thing. So they reshape the book. Like I told people, if you read it in the order, and the order is not a secret, the original order.
No, I haven't.
It's not a secret.
That's right.
This is now the norm of the order it's in. And of course, they still have commentary to back up why it's in this order. To say, now we needed a Quran, and the Quran was now compiled. They didn't say recompiled. The Quran was now compiled, and it was now made ready for the new Islamic nation and to take it out and go abroad to the other lands of those who had not yet met the prophet, that they didn't know who he was. So now they come out with a new product.
Yes. Newly christened.
Yeah, and that they did. So they talk about all of this. They talk about when they was crafting the new compilation. And this is right now, they're losing a fight today against the team that's in Oxford University. They're whipping the pants off of them because now they're saying, where's all the grave sites of the original companions? How come we can't find them? Where are the artifacts? And the only coins that we're finding with the names of these guys that you said was this guy. This guy's a big time imam. We flipped the coin over and he's got a Catholic cross in the back of the coin.
Yes.
Who is this guy? And here's the latest one. They didn't get a Quran until the French brought it in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
They say they did not have Islam in the Middle East until the French walked in the door.
That's right.
In the early 1900s. So what were these people doing? And I'll share this with you. I have 2 types of Arabic Qurans here in this house. 31 has been found, which proves something took place. And you went from the sources to now. You have Al-Buzi. That's what you find in Sudan. You have another version that's in Yemen. I have Al-Wadash. There is no English in this Quran.
That's right.
And these guys, these researchers at Oxford University has made it quite clear. They said, when you can put all the 31 books together that they know about, that folks who have given them their Quran, these Qurans are not in a museum. These are being used today, right now. You can order them. I ordered Al-Wadash from off of Amazon.
Yeah.
And if I wanted 28 other Arabic variations, they let me know how long it was going to take, but it would have come from a bookstore out of Lebanon. That's exactly what they told me. So now I get the chance to open Has,
yes,
which is the one that is sold. You can get them from Barnes & Noble. They give it away for free.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have Al-Wadash. And I'm sitting there reading. He said, between the 31, there are 90,000 differences noted.
Yes.
You see it written the same way, but with the introduction of the vowels and as such, it does alter the meaning of the word.
Absolutely.
So instead of saying we said, and one of the other versions says he said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with respect to the pronunciation of the words, and you know, we can't get away from this part of it. We are not to confuse recitation of how they're telling you during this month they're reciting Quran. This guy's a great reciter. You say, okay, what surah is that? And you go to the surah, you listen and say, okay, well, wait a minute. Did he skip over a word? Well, why is he? Because what they're doing is on the high end, it's metaphysical, metaspiritual, word replacement. So they tell you the recital formula and how they're doing it is allowed. Yeah, but what you just recited, right? That's not, I can't read that here. Where is that at? I mean, I followed you with a few words. You did that. Right. The opening, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, I got that. And then you said some more words. I had my finger, I was following, and I'm going, okay, what happened to that word? And what happened to this word and that word? Mm-hmm. And then they're trying to explain, this is why you need to sit at the feet of a scholar. So that they can teach you about the science of the Quran, not Allah's science given in the Quran.
Right, no.
But the science, so Allah demonstrates to us that 1 + 1 is 2. Mm-hmm. When these guys are done with you, you will end up with a severe case of cognitive distortion. You're looking at the answer is 2 for 1 + 1. Axiom plus this axiom is equal to 2. And here's the result. Yes, this mathematical law was laid out a long time ago. The law of addition. We know about this.
Yeah.
When they're done with you, they've gotten you to reverse engineer the answer that you see clearly is 2 to say it's something else.
That's right.
That's what they call in the mental health field cognitive distortion.
Yes.
So now you're manipulated on another level entirely to call that something that it is not.
What it is not.
That's all part of the matrix.
Yeah.